Have you noticed that no matter how careful you are with your diet, that stubborn belly fat just won't budge? Or maybe you're waking up at 3 a.m. with your mind racing, unable to fall back asleep. Here's what 99% of seniors don't realize. There's a silent hormone that's sabotaging your health right now, and it's getting worse with every birthday after 60. This hormone is called cortisol. And when it stays elevated in your body, it's like having a slow leak in your health that drains away your energy, packs on dangerous belly fat, weakens your bones, and even steals your memory. But here's where this gets interesting. What if I told you that just 1 tablespoon of a specific ingredient could start bringing those cortisol levels down within hours? And no, this isn't some expensive supplement you need to order online or a complicated protocol that requires a doctor's supervision. This is something so simple, so accessible, that it might actually be sitting in your kitchen cupboard right now. But before thousands of seniors started using this, they were stuck in the same exhausting cycle you might be experiencing. They were tired all day but couldn't sleep at night. They were eating less but gaining weight around their middle. They were forgetting names and feeling anxious for no clear reason. Sound familiar? The question is, why isn't your doctor telling you about this? Stay with me, because what I'm about to share could be the missing piece you've been searching for, and it takes less than 30 seconds to use each day. Let me explain what's really happening inside your body when cortisol levels stay high after 60. Think of cortisol as your body's alarm system. When you were younger, it would spike during stressful moments and then naturally come back down. But after 60, something changes. Your body starts producing cortisol differently, and worse, it has a much harder time shutting it off. So instead of getting brief spikes, you're living with elevated cortisol throughout the day and night. Now, here's what that actually does to you. High cortisol tells your body to store fat, especially around your belly, because it thinks you're in constant danger and need emergency energy reserves. That's why no amount of dieting seems to work on that stubborn midsection. It's also why you feel exhausted but can't sleep. Your immune system isn't fighting off colds like it used to, and simple things are harder to remember. Your body is literally in survival mode 24 hours a day. And here's what makes this even more frustrating for seniors. The standard advice to just relax or reduce stress doesn't work when your cortisol system itself is broken. You can't meditate your way out of a hormonal imbalance any more than you can think away high blood pressure. You need something that actually tells your body to stop overproducing this hormone. And that's exactly what this 1 tablespoon does, but the way it works is completely different from anything you've tried before. So why does this happen specifically after 60? Well, your adrenal glands, which produce cortisol, don't get weaker with age like most people think. They actually become overactive and less regulated. It's like a thermostat that's stuck on high and can't read the temperature anymore. When you combine this with the natural decline in hormones like DHEA and pregnenolone that normally balance cortisol, you end up in a state where your body is producing stress hormones without the counterbalance it had when you were younger. And this creates a vicious cycle. High cortisol disrupts your sleep. Poor sleep raises cortisol even more. Elevated cortisol increases inflammation, and inflammation makes everything from arthritis to heart health worse. You're trapped. What really concerns me is how this affects your independence. When cortisol stays high, it breaks down muscle tissue faster than you can build it back. That's why seniors lose strength and balance, which leads to falls, which leads to fear of moving, which leads to less activity, which raises cortisol even more. See how this spiral works. And if you're taking common medications for blood pressure, diabetes, or cholesterol, high cortisol can actually interfere with how well those medications work. Your doctor prescribes something to help, but your elevated cortisol is quietly working against it. Before I show you exactly what this 1 tablespoon ingredient is, click that subscribe button for Health After 60, because understanding solutions like this could genuinely change the next chapter of your life. Now, let me reveal what's in that tablespoon and why it's specifically powerful for anyone over 60. The ingredient I'm talking about is ashwagandha powder. Now, I know that might sound exotic or complicated, but hear me out because this changes everything. Ashwagandha is an adaptogenic herb that's been used for over 3,000 years, and what makes it remarkable for seniors is how it specifically targets cortisol regulation. Unlike caffeine that gives you a jolt or sleeping pills that knock you out, adaptogens work with your body's natural systems to bring things back into balance. Think of it as a dimmer switch for your stress response rather than an on-off button. What recent research has shown is that ashwagandha doesn't just lower cortisol temporarily. It actually helps restore your body's ability to regulate cortisol naturally throughout the day. 1 tablespoon of quality ashwagandha powder has been associated with cortisol reductions of up to 30% in some studies. And for seniors dealing with chronic elevation, that's life changing. You can find this at most health food stores, many pharmacies, and it's surprisingly affordable compared to the dozens of supplements people waste money on. But here's what I need you to understand before you rush out to buy it. The way most people use ashwagandha is completely wrong for senior bodies, and using it incorrectly can mean you get zero benefits or even feel worse. The timing, the dosage, and even what you take it with matters more than the ashwagandha itself. And I'm about to show you exactly why. Let me break down what's actually happening in your body when you take ashwagandha, because understanding this will help you use it correctly. Your brain has this communication pathway called the HPA axis, which stands for hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. I know that sounds complicated, but think of it as the phone line between your brain and your stress glands. When this phone line is working properly, your brain tells your adrenal glands to make cortisol when you need it and stop when you don't. After 60, this phone line gets fuzzy. Messages get crossed, signals get stuck on repeat, and your adrenals keep pumping out cortisol even when there's no emergency. Ashwagandha contains natural compounds called withanolides that literally help clear up this communication. It's like upgrading from a staticky old phone to a crystal clear connection. But here's where it gets really interesting for seniors specifically. High cortisol doesn't just make you stressed, it creates inflammation throughout your entire body. This inflammation is what accelerates aging, damages your joints, clouds your thinking, and weakens your heart. When ashwagandha brings cortisol down, it's like turning off the inflammation faucet that's been running for years. Your body finally gets a chance to repair instead of constantly defending. And unlike medications that force your body to do something, ashwagandha supports what your body is already trying to do naturally. But none of this matters if you take it at the wrong time of day, and most people get this timing completely backwards. Here's where most people completely miss the mark with ashwagandha, and it costs them real results. The timing of when you take this matters enormously because your cortisol naturally follows a rhythm throughout the day. In a healthy body, cortisol should be highest in the morning to wake you up and lowest at night so you can sleep. But when you're dealing with chronic elevation, that rhythm is broken. So here's what you need to know. If your main problem is nighttime anxiety, racing thoughts, or trouble falling asleep, you want to take your tablespoon of ashwagandha about 1 to 2 hours before bed mixed in warm water or milk. This gives it time to start calming your nervous system right when cortisol should naturally be dropping. However, if your issue is daytime fatigue, brain fog, or feeling overwhelmed by stress during waking hours, taking it in the morning with breakfast works better. And here's something crucial that most information out there gets wrong. You should always take ashwagandha with some fat, like a bit of milk, yogurt, or even just a handful of nuts, because the active compounds absorb much better with dietary fat. For seniors specifically, starting to feel subtle changes might take 5 to 7 days, but the real transformation in sleep quality, stress response, and energy usually becomes obvious around the 3 to 4 week mark. Before you start experimenting on your own, make sure you're subscribed to Health After 60 because there are 3 critical mistakes that could sabotage everything. And mistake number 1 is something 60% of seniors do without even realizing it's dangerous. Mistake number 1 is taking too much because you think more equals faster results. Your metabolism after 60 processes supplements differently than it did at 40. And ashwagandha is powerful enough that overdoing it can actually make you feel sluggish, foggy, or even nauseous. 1 tablespoon is the sweet spot for most seniors, but if you're under 130 pounds or particularly sensitive to supplements, you might want to start with half that amount and work your way up. Listen to your body, not your impatience. Mistake number 2 is combining ashwagandha with certain medications without checking first. If you're taking thyroid medication, ashwagandha can amplify its effects because it naturally supports thyroid function. That sounds good until your thyroid levels swing too high. The same goes for blood pressure medications and diabetes drugs. I'm not saying you can't use ashwagandha if you're on these medications, but you absolutely need to monitor your levels more closely and let your healthcare provider know what you're taking. And here's mistake number 3, the one that frustrates me the most because it's so common, expecting this to work like a magic pill overnight. Ashwagandha is resetting your body's stress response system, not masking symptoms. That takes time. If you quit after 3 days because you don't feel different, you're robbing yourself of something that could genuinely improve your quality of life for years to come. But when ashwagandha does start working, something else happens in your body that most people never connect to cortisol levels. When your cortisol finally starts coming down to healthy levels, your body begins healing in ways you might not immediately connect to stress hormones. Let me walk you through what actually happens. First, your sleep architecture improves. I'm not just talking about falling asleep easier. I'm talking about spending more time in deep restorative sleep, the kind that repairs your tissues and consolidates memories. Many seniors tell me they start dreaming again for the first time in years, which is actually a sign that you're reaching proper REM sleep cycles. Second, your blood sugar becomes more stable throughout the day. High cortisol constantly tells your liver to dump glucose into your bloodstream. So when cortisol drops, those blood sugar swings that make you crave sweets at odd hours or feel shaky between meals start smoothing out. This is huge for anyone managing or trying to prevent diabetes. Third, and this surprises most people, your muscle preservation gets better. Remember how I mentioned that high cortisol breaks down muscle tissue. When you lower cortisol, your body finally stops cannibalizing its own muscles for energy. Combined with even light resistance exercise, seniors often notice they're getting stronger rather than weaker. And here's the one that might matter most: your mood stabilizes. That underlying anxiety, the irritability, the feeling of being overwhelmed by small things, it starts lifting. You're not suddenly happy all the time, but life stops feeling so heavy. Now, this only reaches its full potential if you pair ashwagandha with 2 simple shifts that most seniors overlook completely. The first multiplier is so simple it almost sounds too easy, but it works. Add more magnesium, rich foods to your daily routine. Things like pumpkin seeds, dark leafy greens, almonds, or even a square of dark chocolate. Magnesium works alongside ashwagandha to calm your nervous system, and most seniors are actually deficient in it without knowing. When you combine adequate magnesium with cortisol regulation, the calming effect becomes noticeably stronger and your sleep quality jumps to another level. You don't need to obsess over it. Just make one of these foods part of your day. The second multiplier is morning sunlight exposure within the first hour of waking up. I know this sounds unrelated to cortisol, but stay with me. Your body's cortisol rhythm is directly connected to light exposure. When you get natural light on your face first thing in the morning, even just 10 to 15 minutes, you're teaching your body when cortisol should be high and when it should be low. This reinforces the work ashwagandha is doing and helps restore that natural rhythm we talked about earlier. If you can combine ashwagandha, magnesium, rich foods, and morning sunlight, you're creating a complete system that addresses cortisol from multiple angles. Make sure you're subscribed to Health After 60 because next week I'm revealing the one bedtime habit that can double the effectiveness of everything we just discussed, and you won't want to miss it. Now, let me give you a simple action plan so you can start using this information today without feeling overwhelmed. Here's exactly what to do starting today. Step 1, pick up quality ashwagandha powder from a health food store or pharmacy. Look for one that lists the actual ashwagandha root content on the label. Step 2, decide based on your biggest struggle. If it's sleep, take 1 tablespoon mixed in warm milk or water 1 to 2 hours before bed. If it's daytime stress or fatigue, take it with your breakfast along with something that contains fat. Step 3, add 1 magnesium-rich food to your daily routine and get outside for 10 minutes of morning sunlight. Step 4, give it 3 to 4 weeks before you judge the results. Mark it on your calendar so you don't quit early. This isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. Here's what I want you to remember. You've spent years dealing with stubborn weight, poor sleep, and that constant underlying stress that makes everything harder. You've probably been told it's just part of getting older, that you need to accept it. But lowering your cortisol naturally can change how you feel every single day. You deserve to wake up with energy, go to bed without your mind racing, and feel like yourself again. If this information helped you today, subscribe to Health After 60 right now so you never miss strategies that can genuinely improve your health. And if you found this valuable, leave a comment below telling me what your biggest cortisol symptom is. I read every single one, and your question might become our next video. Take control of your cortisol, and you take control of your health.